Hello, take 5 billion. You've no idea. Right, it's system review time. But it's not a retro system this time, but it is retro relevant, and you'll see what I mean as we go along. Also, many of you will be aware that I'm fond of Android devices, tablets, phones, whatever, but I have complained over the years, months, whatever, about the lack of physical controls. I'm always aggravated by touchscreen controls. They're just not suitable for playing games, and this system takes care of that. It is the JXD S7800b Android gaming tablet. Before I get into it, I have got to thank a couple of people or organisations. Funstock at funstock.co.uk. I must thank them, for it is they who provided me with this to review. I have also got to thank Alan Boyston at teamvvv.com, which is a website I am associated with, and it was Alan who got in touch with Funstock and basically got me this. So thank you to them. Links below. There is the Funstock link, there is also the TeamVVV link, and there is a special link there that will get you to one of these. If you decide you want to buy one, click that link. There's a code there that will get you a discount. Yeah, all down there. Okay then, getting into it. The first thing you notice when the box comes through the door is it's a good quality box. This is from China, and well, you've seen me review some handheld things from China before, and they were shoddy, and the box on one of them was just appalling, and the other one didn't even have a box. This is good quality, well, packaging. Let's have a read of what it says on it, if I can. Okay, I can't read that, it's in Chinese. Does it say anything? We got English on this side. Quad core, Android 4.2, 7-inch, 1280 by 800 IPS. I don't know what IPS stands for, but anyway, 7-inch screen, 1280 by 800. 5-point touch, dual cameras, dual USA CTS joysticks. Wi-Fi, 12 emulators, button mapping, free game center. I will get into the details of some of those later. On the back it says, more Chinese writing that I can't read, stuff that I've just read out to you. Quad-core CPU, 0.3 megapixel front camera, 2 megapixel rear camera. Blah 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 blah, whole load of stuff that we'll get into. Anyway, 3 ways to control games: touch, buttons and G sensor. Blah blah blah. Wi-Fi 802.11 BG and N, 3-axis gravity sensor, double speakers, support for blah 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 blah, lots of video formats, lots of music formats, built-in rechargeable lithium polymer battery, charging via blah. Connectors, blah, USB 2, blah, blah, blah. Supports HDMI dual screen display up to 1080p. Supports multi-languages, colour, black, length, sizes. Yeah. 16GB model. That matters. That, I suspect, is the B. I think the A was 8GB. So 16GB storage. Expandable. Mini SD, micro SD card. Let's have a look at the thing. Actually, let's have a look at what you get in the box. Obviously, you get that. We'll have a proper close-up look at this in a minute. What else do you get? You get a charger. Unusually for an Android tablet, it's not a mini USB charger. A lot of these kind of things these days are charged just by plugging into the USB, and this isn't. This is like a mini phone kind of thing. There's a plus and a minus to that. The plus is you can have it plugged in charging while having something else plugged into the USB, because that can be really annoying. You know, your batteries on your tablet can be running out and you want your joystick plugged in, but you can't have both. You can't charge and have, you can't have your joypad and your charger plugged in at the same time on most tablets. Here you can. The downside is if you lose this, break it, blow it up, I don't think that'll happen. Yeah, you have to sort something out and find something. It's actually it looks like the same output as a normal USB charger, just with a different thing on the end. So you could get an adapter that would allow you to use a normal phone charger or whatever. Anyway, I have heard some reviews, and well, a review in America where their chargers were, they were worried about the reliability because they were overheating and stuff. This I have no concerns about. It gets a little bit warm, but nothing alarming. I'm used to chargers getting a bit warm. If it was getting hot, I would be worried, but it's not. And I mean, I leave it on all night. I have no concerns about that. What else do you get? You get a normal USB to mini USB lead for plugging in and data transfer. It won't charge from that. That's all about data transfer. You get a pair of headphones that I haven't even unwrapped, so I can't vouch for the quality of those. But, you know, well, I say headphones, earbuds. They will sound like earbuds. We all know what earbuds sound like. And you get this, which is a mini USB to normal sized USB female. So you can plug stuff in like normal sized USB stuff. Very handy thing to have. I've got one already, but it's very cool that they give you these. Good for plugging in joypads, USB dongles, because you can use a 3G dongle on this thing if you get the right type, and I don't know what that is. Very handy. Right. Yeah, you get a manual. It is I'm not going to read all the bits to you. It serves its purpose. It's not greatly detailed. It doesn't go into massive detail, but it gives you the basics. You probably won't need it. But you know, it's there. It's nice to have it. Better to have it than not have it. Now, I'm going to turn the camera around and point some light at this so I can give you a proper detailed look. So bear with me while I rearrange things in here and try and get some light on the scene. Right then, let's have a look at this thing. Picking it up, very first impression, nice plastic. I have reviewed some Chinese handheld gaming, well, handhelds, in the not too distant past, and they were cheap and nasty. This is not cheap and nasty, not by any means. Hello! Nice reflective screen. Not an issue when you're using it because it's nice and bright. We'll get onto that later. So quality of the plastic is nice. It's not up there with, say, PSP quality, but it's way above any of the nasty handhelds that you can get from China. This side is black with a sort of metallic flecked effect. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. The camera's being a bit of a pig and not focusing a good deal at the moment. Anyway, black that side, kind of two-tone gunmetal grey on this side, which looks really nice, and it's ergonomically moulded. And that's nice. On the top here, power supply, earphones, micro USB, HDMI out, shoulder buttons. They've got quite a long travel and a really nice click, and the same with these. Analog sticks, lovely. These are great. These are what you need on a gaming Android tablet. Good feel, good travel, a decent height above the surface of the tablet. They kick the arse off of that analog nub that you get on the PSP. The D-pad and face buttons I'm not so keen on. There's nothing particularly wrong with them, and again they are vastly better than the D-pads and the buttons that I came across on those really cheap and nasty Chinese handhelds. Just a little, the travel is a little bit long. The feel, they're responsive. I can't put my finger on it. Well, no, I can. It's a D-pad. But yeah, I'm not in love with the feel of them. But there's nothing specifically wrong with them. I think it's just because I'm so used to using a PS3 pad, and these feel different to that. You got these little buttons here. Home button, key mapping button, and then here return button, menu button, start button, and select button. Now these, it's interesting having these here. Because this is a gaming device, and an Android gaming device at that, you don't have what you would normally get along the bottom of the screen, which are the home, return and menu icons on the screen, on the operating system. You don't want that when you're playing a game. So they've moved those onto actual physical buttons on the case, and then added some gaming specific ones like the key mapping, the start and select. It's interesting and it works, but you do have to get used to them. Here is a minor quibble. How well can you see them? Will the camera focus? Probably not, because the camera's being an arse. You can see them quite well in this light. When the screen is on, it's quite bright, and if you're in a room that isn't especially well lit, you can't actually see what's printed on them very well. I struggled anyway, and when I was just like playing it for the very first time, I needed to push them, like the home button and the return button, and I couldn't see which was where. Minor quibble, and once you've used it for a little while, you'll know what one's which without even having to look. So it doesn't really, it's not a big deal. Other stuff, yes. On-off button there. Volume rocker there. Reset hole there that you would stick a pin in if you needed to reset it. I haven't needed to reset it at all. Micro SD card slot. Camera there. And another camera there. Haven't used either. I've looked. I've launched the camera app and had a look through that camera. Quality was okay. It was a low light situation, and it definitely doesn't work too well in low light. But you're not really buying one of these for the camera. So let's turn it on. Here we go. There. Now, I have left these screens as they, pretty much as they were as it came out of the box. I've added other stuff, but that's not on these first screens. God. There is some stuff on here, like pre-installed, just for demonstration purposes, and a piece of music there. Backstreet Boys. That is not my cup of tea, thank you very much. And these like brightness controls, not even sure what that one does. Wi-Fi. Assorted different all the stuff you would expect, and some stuff that you wouldn't. We'll get on to that. In terms of responsiveness of the user interface, it is lovely. It is just silky smooth. Play Store, Google Maps, Gmail, YouTube, App Installer, Calculator. Game Center. That is a thing called Happy Chick. It's like an all-in-one emulator package, and it lets you download games into it as well. Now, I'm not actually using that because I like to pick and choose what emulators I use myself, but it is clever. It lets you download games directly into it as well. It's kind of like emulators made easy if you don't want to do it yourself. I do. Same with this. They're not pre-installed, but they're like one click and it will install. But I'm again not doing that. I want to pick and choose my own. I get mine from the Play Store, and we'll look at what I'm using in a bit. Test app rather. A whole load of stuff. I guess it's like their recommended apps, stuff you would like to try. Cool. I haven't really used any of these either. I think the thing is, because I'm used to Android, I don't care what other people recommend. I just go straight to the App Store and install the stuff that I want. But I thought I'd leave that there to show. Wow, wait. ICQ, is that still a thing? That's great. Yep, video, This is your video player, basically. It's got a demo video on here, and it's an animation, a magician thing. It's brilliant. It is really good. MPEG 4 video, brilliant quality, entertaining video. I assume that comes as standard on all of these. I don't know, but I liked that. It amused me. And the playback was silky smooth. Camera, it's what you would expect. Did I even press that? Well, I did. Very sensitive touchscreen. Yeah. Can you see? Can you see? It's the moose and the monkey. Browser. This is the standard Android browser as opposed to Google Chrome. Key mapping. That is the same as is mapped to this here button, and we'll look at that in a bit. Gallery. It's what you would expect for looking at your photos. Music. Yeah. That's how I came to Backstreet Boys. We just don't want to listen to them. Wi-Fi display. I believe this will allow you to display what's on here on another device that happens to be hooked into your Wi-Fi. I'm not sure about that. I haven't tried it. Explorer. It's what you would expect. It's a file browser that will let you browse through all the files on your SD card and on the internal memory and stuff. Settings. Well, it's Android settings. Okay. Now, before we get on to the games, this button here, the key mapping, this is important. Let's get to an empty-ish screen. We'll do it here. When you load up a game with touchscreen controls, you get kind of overlays on the game screen, say a D-pad control there and control buttons here, or a steering wheel somewhere. And they're overlaid on the screen, and you're supposed to put your thumbs and fingers or whatever all over the screen to control your game, and it's a bit annoying. You just don't get any feedback. You don't know if your fingers are in the right place, and invariably you end up dying because you think you're touching the button and you're not. This makes use of that. When you push the button, you get all of these, which are your... Oh, how can I explain? This here represents this analog stick. So say you've got a directional control on the screen just here, you put that over it. And then say you've got face button controls here, your A, B and C buttons from say a Mega Drive, you would put these here on it. And say your start button, you know, there. Wherever the controls are on the screen within the game, you put the equivalent representations here over them. These representations representing the face buttons and D-pad and analog sticks. You put them on and then you press save. And you can... the physical controls then are registered as movement on the touch screen. Does that make sense? It's a tricky one to explain how it works, but the fact is it works. Sometimes it can be a bit awkward because the on-screen controls will move, and that's really bloody annoying because then your physical controls stop working. That to me is bad game design. Real Racing 2 does that, and it's really bloody annoying. But mostly, wherever the controls are on emulators that I've used, they're fixed pretty well, and you can turn the visual representations off, so that you're using your physical controls, which are simulating your on-screen controls, only your on-screen controls aren't on the screen anymore. It sounds a little bit complicated, but it works. And it's brilliant. Right, let's have a look at these here games. Shadow Gun. I'm gonna... Wait, we'll have a look at Real Racing because this used the key mapping. Okay, that took a little bit of tinkering. I had to configure the controls because, as you can see, touchscreen. When I touch the analog nub, the steering wheel appears over there on the left. But Here we are with proper controls. Do I have gears, or I'm going to assume I'm on manual gears? But it's great. This is how I like to play racing games, with proper controls. Whoops. Yeah, I'm miles away from all of the other cars. But there's my brake. I'm going to plug this into the telly so you can see it running properly, because it deserves to be seen, and you're not getting like the white balance from the camera at the moment while doing this is not right. But it's great. Bear with me. Right, there we go. That looks gorgeous. And we've got it on proper analog control, so it's very sensitive. Very sensitive. But that's because of the way it's the sensitivity is set to respond to a touch screen, and you can adjust all of that. I've just done this in a hurry just to show that it works, and as you can see, the frame rate and general ability of the tablet to play the game is bang on. It looks lovely. I could probably turn up some of the settings and see how that looks, because I doubt that I've got them on maximum. And the frame rate is perfectly acceptable like this. It could probably stand to have the details turned up a bit. But there you are. That is Real Racing 2. I should probably put on Real Racing 3 as that's graphically superior, just to see how it copes with it. But I haven't installed it yet, and I've got so much I want to show you that, whoops. Yeah. I don't really have time or the inclination. I'm just doing this to show how the key mapping, button mapping or whatever, where you map the physical buttons to areas on the touch screen works. It works brilliantly. It takes a little bit of fiddling around initially, and that can be awkward because sometimes you're having to play the game while you're configuring the keys. And if the area on the screen that responds to a certain control in the game it can move around, you can push it around the screen and screw it up. It takes an amount of fiddling around, but once you've got it done, you've got it done, and it's great. I like playing this game like this. It's bloody brilliant. Okay, moving on. Right then, this is Shadowgun Dead Zone, and this is one that you don't have to configure anything. It just responds to the controls automatically, which is great. I'm going to die tragically on a regular basis here. Actually, you do have to do a little bit to configure it, but you don't have to do all the on-screen mapping. I can't remember, but I didn't have to do the key mapping to make this one work. I think you have to tell it what buttons do what in the options, but but it looks lovely. It controls great. Not having to mess around plugging in a joypad, having it all built onto the tablet is great. Spawn, please. Yes, you can see there you've got what would be touchscreen controls, but as soon as you start, do they disappear? I can't remember. I'm not using those buttons. There, they disappear when it. That's what I. Come on, let me kill you. Come back here. Where's my run button? There's my run button. It's the trouble. As soon as I see anyone, I'm gonna just die. Like that. Yeah. But all of that is done using these. Yeah, and I've disconnected my HDMI. Okay, let's have a look at the emulators. We have loads of them, and they work brilliantly. I'm just going to assume that it remembers my. I've configured the touchscreen controls and stuff. So let's see if it's remembered them. Here we go then. Jeff Crammond's Stunt Car Racer. I'm using It's using the key mapper to map the joystick controls. Trying to remember what button to press, that button. Mapping the joystick controls onto the touchscreen controls. You can see the touchscreen controls there, that circular thing down the bottom left and well, just off the bottom right. They would be the joystick and fire button representations, but I've got them mapped. So I'm controlling it with the D-pad on the tablet, and oops. That's me playing badly so you can see what it looks like. You should be familiar with what it looks like by now anyway. Press fire, there we go. I love this game, it's absolutely bloody awesome. Though I do suck at it. Yay! Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's Amiga. It plays Amiga well. Very nicely. And it looks, oh god. It looks just as good through the, on the tablet screen. So, can't fault it. Right, let's have a look at other emulators. Now, one of the best is this. What's the guy's name? Robert Broglia. He does a whole load of Android emulators, and they are the ones to go for. If you want a particular emulator on your Android tablet, his are the ones to try first. Sometimes you can get one that will do the job, and you can get them for free. But his, which you have to pay for, they're between like $1.99 and $2.99 or thereabouts, his will be better, invariably. I have got scan lines and CRT kind of emulation thing turned on here to make it look more like playing on a CRT. Because with a lot of emulators, it's just too clean, it's too... Alright. Start button. Yeah. Emulators on a modern screen look too sharp, and you can see the pixels. And this emulator fuzzies it up a little bit, and you can add scan lines. It's all controllable. You can decide how fuzzy or sharp you want it. Do you want scan lines? How strong do you want them? And I've got this set up with sort of mild fuzzing, and it's beautiful. It actually looks nicer than if I plug a real Mega Drive into this TV. And it looks absolutely magnificent on the screen, on the tablet screen. It's lovely. And I've got other emulators by this guy, not all of them, but I've got several. Oops. Alright, let's move on, have a look at some others. Yeah, one that I've got which isn't by him, Super Retro 16 emulator, and the reason for that, I used that chap, I forget his name as soon as I've said it. It would not play Super Mario Kart as precisely as I would have liked it, and this one does. So, new game. Here we go, Super Mario Kart. This one also seems to, it fuzzes it up just a little, dear. Just a little bit, so it's not too sharp. It looks lovely. I'm not entirely sure if the sound is completely precise. Not sure. Trying to remember the buttons is there we go. Bounce with that one, bounce with the other one. Yeah. I love this. This is still the best Mario Kart game in the series. To my mind, it's just purer than anything that followed, and Super Circuit on the GBA is probably up there with it as well. But oh, I love it. Oops, bastard. Yeah, getting emulators that will play Super Mario Kart, tricky. Right, another one by that chap whose name I've forgotten already, Neo Geo. What's his name again? Quick reminder. Robert Broglia. I don't remember what start button is. Hey, guess what? It's the start button. Seems to be. Yeah, buttons. Here we go.
Mission 1, start.
Again, it just the image quality is fantastic. Yay. Just reminding myself of the buttons. Piggy. Alright, probably the last one that is especially playable on things like the PSP. I've got to find it on the screen now. Yeah, PS1. Whoops. Yes, here we go then. PS1. Gran Turismo. Oops, I forgot I've got manual gears. I'm in a... I think I'm in an FTO. This is slick. It's probably the last game I'm used to being able to play emulated well on a handheld. I can do this on my PSP, and it does PS1 games brilliantly. They're pretty much perfect, but they you know, they don't fill the screen, which is annoying, especially when the screen isn't that big. I can play this on my phone, and it's just about copes. It's not quite full speed, but it's fast enough to not lose too much. But here we are playing it, and it's just bang on the money. You got the... Have we got... I don't know if the textures are they doing that tearing that they do on the real thing? I'm not sure. Possibly. But it feels pretty close to the real thing, it's got to be said. It's close enough. It's very impressive. This car, on the other hand, is not. Oopsie. Yeah, right, let's move on. I'm getting engrossed. And that's not what I'm here to do. Moving on. Okay then. N64. Now, I'm used to handhelds and similar things playing N64 emulators. My PSP will do it. Oh dear. Slightly oversensitive there. Yep. My PSP will play N64, but it won't. It will play it at full speed without sound, but if I turn the sound on, it gets really not good. I do need to adjust the sensitivity of the analog stick on this. But other than that, I mean, look at it. It's bang on the money. There is no glitching, there is no drop in the frame rate, the sound is playing properly. It's bloody brilliant. It's not actually what I wanted to do. I was just reminding myself of which button did it really. Yeah, this, I would tell you what the emulator is. There are lots of different emulators that you can use. This one's something like Lupin 64 or something rather like that. I don't actually remember. There are different different graphics engines that you can use. I was playing Cruising World last night, and when I loaded it up it was glitching all over the place, and I changed the graphics engine on it and it worked perfectly. So tinker, you know, if you find a game that doesn't work straight off the bat, tinker, change stuff. It can have a dramatic effect on what will play and what won't. Ultimately though, it's very impressive. Moving on. Alright then, this just, I'm excited about this. The emulator is called Retro Arch. Whoops. Remember your buttons, Steve. It's been a long while. RetroArch is a multi-system emulator, but the only thing on it that I'm interested in is this. This is 32X. There are lots and lots of Mega Drive emulators for Android, but this is the only one I can find that will play 32X, and it does it really well. There are multiple different cores and all kinds of settings that you can use to play different systems on here. Like I said, this is the only one I'm interested in on RetroArch. It's the Pico Drive core. It's installed as standard. Oh, bugger! I'd better get on with it then. Batteries are running out. Which brings me, I suppose I should mention battery life. I'm not honestly sure how long it will... what is battery life like? It's very adequate, I think I would say. It very much depends on what you're doing. I'm able to leave the thing turned on all day. I mean, I've seen 15 hours on it and it was still at 25%. But I wasn't playing emulators all day. I was playing emulators for a good few hours, mostly configuring them, but you know, plenty of actual gameplay. So I think battery life is what you would expect from a decent modern handheld game system. If you're gaming, don't expect tablet battery life where you can leave it on for 24 hours and you know, still have half a charge or something like that. Not if you're gaming. If you're just using it as a tablet, like browsing and tweeting and stuff, yeah, it'll go for a very long time. But if you're gaming, expect less. But certainly no worse than a modern handheld. No worse than a PSP, which is about what you should expect, really. Okay, better move on because batteries in it. But then this thing goes and does something. Well, I mean, it's the emulators that are doing it, but the fact that a handheld system can run them adequately leaves me gobsmacked. The probably the most impressive is the Dreamcast. What do we ever go at? The Dreamcast one it won't play everything, not by any means, but it will certainly play some that are worth playing.
This could be fun!
Alright, edit myself in here. So, here we go. Just getting out of the cutscene intro bit. Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast, playing on this here tablet. I can't remember what the controls are, but that is stunning. Because, I mean, the Dreamcast is up there with the PS2. I mean, it's not quite, but it's of that generation. And here we are. Oh, you bastard. Oh, you... Whoa. Come on. I want to eat his brain.
Jump up, then press the jump button again to do the home attack.
Press the what? Oh, I've got a dash button here. Oh, that's cool. Can I dash into him? It's actually cool. I want to bash your head in. Oh, bugger off. This is a bloody tricky game. Oh shit. Oh, excuse me. But you get the gist. It runs, as far as I can tell, full speed. Full detail, full everything. Oh, you saw. This is evil. Ah. How many times do I have to beat him up? Because he's going to win. Get more rings. This is bloody difficult.
No!
Oh dear. Yeah, okay. Moving on, because I suck at that, but that's brilliant. And it is using the key mapping thing. As you can see the on-screen controls there. You maybe can't, because have I got them on the screen? Maybe not. Whatever. There are on-screen controls on the screen, but I'm not using them. I'm using the physical controls on the tablet. But anyway, moving on.
No!
That was the Dreamcast emulator. this is the last one I think I'll look at here for the moment. Okay, this is the PSP emulator. There's really only one game I wanted to play on this, and it struggles with this. I've tried a few games on it, and some of them it's actually really, it does them quite well. Gran Turismo, you have to tweak it like mad, and you're not going to get full speed out of it, I don't think, whatever you do with it. What it does do, which is interesting, is display in a higher resolution than the PSP itself would. It upscales it with no performance hit, which is quite surprising really. I think the PSP must render it to a higher resolution internally than it can display on its own screen. Maybe, but then it doesn't display it in a higher resolution on a TV, so who knows. But here we are playing it in higher than PSP resolution. If I turn the resolution down, I get no performance increase, so it's not worth doing. But I've got the frame skip set at 5, which makes the game playable. And stills of it, you know, if I took a photo of it, you think, wow, that looks fantastic, but then you see it moving, and it's like, yeah, back in my Amiga days, playing a 3D game with this kind of texturing and resolution would have been amazing. You know, Jeff Crammond's Formula 1 Grand Prix playing at this frame rate would have been perfectly acceptable. But these days, not so much. But, you know, it's an achievement for a tablet to be able to emulate this and be remotely playable, because it's a pretty recent system. I mean, as you'll have seen, it does the Dreamcast better, but it doesn't play that many Dreamcast games. The PSP, I think with some tweaking, it will play a lot of games. I've got Space Invaders Extreme running well on it. I've got some shoot 'em up that I can't even remember what it's called, that played nicely on it. I have got Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories playing okay on it. The frame rate on that is not great, and you have to adjust the settings, like the settings for that and the settings for this are completely different, and if you get them wrong you get all kinds of graphical weirdness. But it's doable. You can play the things, you're just not going to be able to play it as well as you could on a real PSP. It just impresses me that it can do it at all. Yeah, it's more a proof of concept really. I'm hoping with time it will be refined and there will be a speed increase that isn't going to require an increase in horsepower from your tablet, because obviously that's not something you can do without buying a new tablet, and I don't want to, because this thing's great. And well, I wouldn't need, you know, I've got a PSP anyway. But that's by the by. As a proof of concept, I think this is very impressive. Anyway, let's move on to some final thoughts and conclusions and stuff. So, summing up then, what do I think of this? Actually, before I sum up and tell you what I think of this, I've got to tell you, this is not an advert. Yes, I was given this to review by Funstock, and I'm very grateful to them for doing that, and to Alan from Team VVV who organised that. Chuffed to bits, very grateful. But I am free to say whatever I like about it. If there are things that I don't like, I can say whatever I like. Are there things that I don't like? I have some very minor quibbles. I'm not a fan of how the D-pad feels. I'm not a fan of how these face buttons feel. There's just a little bit too much travel on them, and the click on them is... I'm spoiled by the PS3 joypad. It's not up there with that, but it's a whole lot better than some handhelds that I've tried. I would like the print on these buttons to be bolder, so that I can see them when the screen's on. It doesn't matter so much now that I'm used to what goes where. But when I was just trying it out for the first time, I wasn't sure which button I needed to press, because you don't have the normal bar along the bottom that you would get with an Android tablet. These are very minor quibbles. Performance. I benchmarked this with Geekbench Pro 3. which I did the same with my Huddle about a year ago, and I was surprised that the figures for this were actually very slightly lower than for the Huddle Mark 1. And I was surprised because this plays the games better than the Huddle, and the reason for that I can only assume is this has got 2 gigs of RAM, where the Huddle only had 1. So more room to breathe, I guess. It gets through the code more efficiently, no bottlenecks, something like that, I don't know. In terms of performance, it's not going to be able to live with the NVIDIA Shield. But then you shouldn't really expect that. I mean, the NVIDIA is a powerhouse, and it costs the kind of money you would expect to pay for a powerhouse. This, just under £130. And what it does for that kind of money is really very impressive. I mean, you've seen what it will do emulation-wise. It is fantastic for emulating systems. Everything I've been able to emulate on my PSP, because I like emulating, and I like emulators on handhelds. I'm not interested in emulating on my PC, but on a handheld it makes sense, so I can play lots of retro games when I'm out and about. This will do everything my PSP would emulate and more. Dreamcast, the fact that it can emulate the Dreamcast, and when you find the games that it will play, is gobsmackingly good. I mean, frame rate is right up there. It just needs the emulator being a bit more refined, and that's not down to this. That's not down to the hardware. That's down to the emulator is still being developed. And PSP, I don't know if it's ever going to be able to do the PSP at full speed. Maybe that needs developing some more as well. But the fact that it will do it at all, it's a bizarre thing. Could the PSP emulate a PSP? That doesn't make sense at all. It just impresses the hell out of me, and for the money I think it's excellent. This is going to be my portable gaming system of choice. I mean, you can't fit it in your pocket. You probably wouldn't want to put it in your bag and carry it around. It's going to come on holiday with me at such time as I have the chance to go on holiday, and it will get played downstairs in the living room when they're watching Strictly or something that I don't want to watch, but I feel I should be in the room. This is what I will be playing on. And it does all of the other Android-y stuff that you would expect as well. I mean, I've got iPlayer on here, I've got Netflix on here, it'll do Twitter, it'll do, you name it. It's an Android tablet. You just have to get used to the fact that some of the controls are physical buttons and aren't on the screen. That took me a little bit of getting used to. I mean, I'm not going to say I worry about the longevity of the buttons. It is a thing to keep in mind, I think, when you're using an Android tablet as an Android tablet. You're used to pressing those buttons a lot. So I plan to just keep this for gaming and not use it as my everyday tablet that I use like day in, day out and whatnot, because I don't want to be having to push these buttons where I would be pushing the screen. But as a gaming device, as a emulation device, bloody brilliant. And for the money, I mean, yeah. It's hard not to sound like an advert. There will be those who say, well, he was given it by Funstock, so he's got to say all good things about it. It's not the case. I can say what I like. It just impresses the hell out of me, and I like it a lot. I don't think I can say any more than that. I think I've covered it all. I won't say I can't fault it, but the faults, they're tiny, tiny little quibbles that they pale into insignificance compared to how good it is at what it does. I think that will do, because I'm just gushing a bit here. Yeah, so brilliant. And big thank you to Funstock and Alan at Team VVV. Links down below. Thank you for watching.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking the thumbs up button. I upload videos daily, so go ahead and hit subscribe if you'd like to see more. To all those who've already subscribed, I'd just like to say a great big thank you.